What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7 once again with my own racing league NTRL. This time we're going to be covering round 1 of the Classic Mini Challenge. Now this is something a little bit different. Now tuning is enabled, but all the cars are spec built. What I mean by that is I kind of got a set tune for all of the cars, so all the minis will be the same. However, the things like suspension, differential and stuff are all tunable to each specific track, so that's really where you can gain advantages. Now there's 6 rounds for this championship, 2 races per round, so you'll have a qualifying, standard race and then a reverse grid. Drivers are set into class A, B and C, which is a bit like the gold, silver and bronze previously. So if you are in the other league, it will kind of carry over to this as, say, silver being B, A being gold and C being bronze. So again, you know, no teams, individual only, so you know, realistically it should be a level playing field, and you can really move up just by, you know, getting that tuning right and really kind of knuckling down with these cars. So we're going to head over to the Big Willow at Willow Springs Raceway, obviously, for round 1, and we're going to have the standard race up first. So let's go ahead and tune straight into that. As you can see, we've got Alexander finally returning since season 1 full time for the Classic Mini Cup. He's going to be on pole, followed by Turbo Boy, Dan, Archangel, Jayce and myself up to P6, with the likes of DWG also in here, Jody in here, and Steer as well, and obviously new boy Nizam, who has really kind of settled into most of these leagues and really kind of taking part in them all quite recently. So we've got Alexander running wide and dropping a ton of positions early on, and that's kind of allowed Turbo Boy through and really kind of onto it. Dan, he's in second place, so you know, he's a B class driver, but he's, well, you know, pretty much certainly up there with the rest of the field. Then we have Jayce, obviously another gold driver. Alexander, well, he's still dropping back into the pack, as you can see. He's just here defending from myself and the likes of Archangel and DWG and such. He's going to then get it a little bit on the inside, and that's going to allow us to you know, get down the inside for the next corner. We're going to try and cover it off, but it's probably not going to last too long. He really did have a good setup for this car. We saw one of the minis running very, very wide there, and then getting reset to the back of the field, which is going to be Steve. So we'll tune in a minute to see what happened to him. So the cars are coming up to finish up the first lap. Now in terms of lap time, you know, it's a bit longer than usual. Obviously these Mini Coopers just under 100 brake horsepower at 99 brake horsepower, so they're not the fastest things in the world, but they are insanely fun and maneuverable little cars. And well, Willow Springs, it's quite a wide open track towards the end of it and up the main straight, so there's plenty of, you know, 3-4 wide, you know, car chances to really get onto. So we've had a look through the grid. Let's have a look what actually happened to Steve. So he's going to be there in the middle of the pack, take a little nudge on the rear and get himself into the desert. And obviously we all know what the invisible barriers are like here. It's just going to reset you all the way back from where you went off, instead of actually you know, letting you carry on and kind of piling into the rest of the pack. So we're going to go on to lap 2 here. Now as you can see, Alexander's working his way through the field. He's trying to make a move on the inside of Jayce here. Now it is a bit of a tough final corner here at Willow Springs. It's one that not many people like, since it's a sweeping right-hander and then tightens up a little bit just right at the end before getting onto the main straight. Alexander's going to get a little bump onto 2 wheels and straight into the side of Jayce, causing Jayce to lose a ton of momentum. And yeah, he's going to lose that position pretty much instantly after that point. So Alexander did get through, a little bit rough and tough though. Now we're going to have a look at the rest of the pack, and this is realistically where most of the battle is going to be for race 1, all over the 4th position in this race. And it's mainly going to be between Jayce, Arch, myself and DWG, who's also going to get involved, as you can see, as it just goes through the background there. It's going to be a 4-way battle just for a single place. It was massively entertaining to take part in. People swapping positions constantly. As you can see, we're going to go into the left-hander here, and it's going to be Arch that then takes P4 as Jayce gets kind of hung out a little bit wide, and that allows both myself and Dave to begin to kind of pack up. Now we're going to go on the inside of Jayce here to try and get a move done, try and keep him nice and wide and hopefully not force him into the desert. So we've got that one done nice and clean, and then essentially we're going to try and run the slipstream of Archangel all the way down into the kind of last sort of part of the track. Now we're on board Jayce, and as you can see, he's trying to chase down. Slipstream very, very powerful in these minis, obviously with them being all kind of, you know, the same power and all that kind of stuff. Certainly on the straights you need to be running in the slip, as we have sort of two separate battles going on here, as Dave's starting to begin to take a look at Jayce, as my own mini goes a little bit wide into the desert there, causing us to lose some momentum, and allows Jayce to bunch up into the slip and try and get that move done before turn 1. Obviously equal power, so we're just going to try and get that one covered off, moving on the inside of Archangel there. As you can see, through the left-hander, we're just going to peep ahead of Arch there, going into that first corner, and Jayce is then going to try and make a move on the outside, going into this sweeping right-hander again. Another bit of a tough corner. You get it wrong and you've got a long way to get yourself back on track. It can really cost you a lot of time, and as you can see, Dave right on the bumper there of Jayce. So, you know, although we're trying to get a little bit of a gap going, it's still pretty much slipstream heaven for everybody. So DWG is going to get straight up the inside there on Jayce. He's going to get that move done until the right-hander, where Jayce then has the inside line. He's going to try and get that one covered, but it's just not quite going to happen for him just yet. It's all about getting the run out of the right-hander into the next right-hander, and once again he's going to get that move done a little bit later on. So we're going to check back in onto lap 5, and as you can see, the positions are chopping and changing constantly, as Jayce has now got himself back up to P4 as we dip into the desert once again, and this is going to allow Arch and his momentum to propel him forward on the inside in the bright white mini, as DWG just kind of hanging there waiting to kind of pounce if anybody makes mistakes, which I'm pretty sure he'll do throughout the majority of this battle. As you can see, we just got it a little bit wide there, and that's going to cause us to lose a ton of momentum, allowing DWG up the inside, gives us a little nudge, and he's going to get that move pretty much done. So we're just going to again tuck in the slipstream. Now up front, Alexander's going to continue his bit of a recovery drive after dropping back early on. He's going to overtake Dan there for P2, so through he goes, certainly the fastest guy on track. And you know, we've also got Turbo up front, who's pretty much just ran away with it. There's not really much we can say about Turbo because he was pretty much on his own for the entirety of the race. On to lap 7 now for race 1, and we're going to tune back in with the 4-car battlers. Jayce once again goes for a little drive through the desert, gets himself back on, and that's allowed DWG now to overtake that 4th spot, and Archangel to begin to try and get a move done on the inside as he clips the inside of that corner there, kicking up a ton of dust. Now realistically, I'm not really part of this battle anymore. I've kind of fell out of the slipstream, and yeah, it's kind of just dropped us back. It's a bit of a tough call trying to get back in the slip at this point, but as long as these two keep battling, it's going to allow me to you know, slowly but surely close up that gap, as Archangel does get through on Jayce once and for all, at least at this point of the race. And again, as you can see, we've managed to gain a little bit more time there after those two were battling away. And DWG, well, he's kind of, you know, running away from the rest of this little pack of cars, so he's pretty safe for now. And it's also allowed a new guy, TCR Nissan, to basically, you know, begin to catch the rest of the pack in his little different Mini Cooper, the bright yellow one. It's probably one we're going to see quite a bit throughout this entire season. So he's really, you know, kind of settling into lead quite well, and he's managing to keep on the rest of the pack. Now Steve's going to have a bit of a nightmare for this round, really. He's going to go wide here after going wide early on and getting reset. He's pretty much on his own race at this point, taking over P10. So in terms of the actual starters, I'm just going to talk about that. There was 11 to begin with. That's because someone managed to get into the lobby, but the Mini Cooper just wasn't kind of spec'd right, so he did basically leave each time. So you may see that, you know, both races we might start off with 11 cars and it goes down to 10. Again, he's not really in there for championship points either, due to not being signed up to the website, so we can't really track him or anything like that. And obviously a DNF is a 0 point straight away anyway, so yeah, you may see the Jester kind of about every now and again, but he's not really part of the league or part of this race or gaining any points. So it's a bit of a, I guess, a bit of a ghost car, you may call it. So Jayce has made the move on DWG as Archangel runs off in the background. As you can see there, both myself as well running into the desert, and DWG is going to tuck back into the slipstream to hopefully keep his momentum going and get himself straight back on Jayce. Now Steve's about to have probably one of the weirdest accidents I think I've ever seen happen in Gran Turismo, and he's basically going to to get himself stuck for pretty much a good 40 seconds. So he's almost took the marshals out there. As you can see, the yellow flag kind of getting waved and clipped through his car. He's going to try and get himself going, but he cannot really quite get himself out. You're going to see a bunch of cars sort of work their way through, and we're going to kind of wonder why there's a yellow flag. Where he was, you couldn't actually quite spot what he was doing or really where the yellow flag was coming from, but now we kind of know after looking at the footage. He is going to eventually get himself going after a long time in the desert. He's going to get himself back on track and get himself underway once again. So bit of a nightmare race for him. So we're going to check back in with the leader, and we're on to what is probably the second to final lap, maybe even the final lap here. And Alexander has managed to get himself all the way back onto the rear end of Turbo. As you can see, he's certainly the fastest man on track with a 131.653. So plenty of pace for him, really getting the car dialed in to his preferences, and really getting it suited towards this Big Willow layout of Willow Springs Raceway. So is he going to be able to make this move? It's looking like this is going to be the final lap. There's only a few seconds remaining. Both races 20 minutes in length, so this is certainly going to be the final corner, the final chance for Alexander to get anything done. Is he going to be able to catch Turbo Boy? I think Turbo Boy just kind of caught napping in these later stages after basically racing on his own for the entirety of it. And yeah, Alexander's not going to quite get that one done. So Turbo Boy wins the first race. Alexander in P2. Quite a bit back then to P3, and that's going to be Dan with a fantastic drive and the winner of the silver B category for this one. Jayce comes in P4, eventually clearing the rest of that pack, with DWG taking P5. Or is he? Because as you can see, Archangel very close and using that slipstream and momentum all the way to the line. Is Arch going to be able to make this move here? Let's have a look. Is he going to be able to get it across the line? No, he's not. Just so DWG takes that one. Archangel takes P6, myself P7 after I believe a penalty really kind of dropped me back. TCR Nissan, he does drop a little bit back in the end, but he takes a very solid P8 in his little bit of a different looking Mini Cooper. Now in terms of P9, it's going to be Jody a lap ahead of Steve. As you can see, Steve basically just kind of messing around at the line there. So P9 for Jody, and finally in P10 and last place of the points finishers is going to be Steve. So yeah, a bit of a nightmare race for him. Fastest lap went to obviously Alexander for a 131.653. Great to see him returning to NTRL after being away since being full-time in season 1 back in the Suzuki Swift, and he seems to be doing fantastic yet again in very small machinery. So yeah, great to see him return. Good fastest lap from him. Time for the reverse grid now, so that means Steve is going to be on pole, followed by Jody, Nizam, myself and Archangel, DWG, Jayce, Dan, and then we obviously have the likes of Alexander, Turbo and Jester obviously not finishing, so that automatically puts him in the back, and he's not eligible for points either. So it's all about kind of keeping him out of the way for now at least, so he doesn't really have any effect on the overall race, but he is just kind of cruising around in the back there. As you can see, that more lighter blue Mini Cooper. So Steve's holding off at least in these early stages. We've managed to work our way through a few places as Nissan drops back to P5 after a few corners. So are we going to be able to make the move on Steve? It's looking like Jody's being able to make the move on us here, as she is going to go for the outside line. All we need to do is cover this one off, but she's going to give us a little bump in the door, trying to turn in a little bit too early there, and she's going to lose a bit of momentum there. But we do manage to get it down the inside of Steve, and so does Jody as well. She's through there, but she is going to take a few knocks, and that's going to essentially ruin her momentum. As you can see, Steve kind of giving her one in the side, then Arch giving her one in the side, and then Turbo just giving her one up the rear. So yeah, that's going to kind of drop her back, as well as Steve hitting her again. So yeah, ton of momentum lost there, and that's going to allow the rest of the pack to essentially bunch up to her and use her slipstream. As you can see out front now, it's myself followed by Archangel. Jody now at risk of losing a position to the likes of Steve, Jayce and such, and then we have obviously the rest of the field just behind. So tight pack racing early on for this reverse grid race. Steve dropping from P1 to P4, Jody from P2 to P3, and up front is myself all the way from I believe P4 and Arch in P5. So yeah, close racing, and it's certainly all kicking off as a bunch of cars take to the desert. So that's going to finalise the first lap as we kind of look through the field, just see really where the battles are at. Turbo already up there with Jayce in the slipstream, as well as DWG making some moves as well, basically maintaining his position. Jody dropping back a little bit after there, I believe a trip through the desert, as Jayce gets it wide once again at turn 1 and goes for that little dip into the sand. So up front, we're on lap 2 now, and as you can see, it's going to be myself leading but a bit of a mistake, and kicking up a ton of the desert is going to essentially drop us back and lose us a ton of momentum as Turbo Boy goes through once again. Archangel also goes through, and then I believe that is DWG as well going through. Yes, it is. And that's going to allow Jayce to bunch up and run in our slip. Is he going to be able to get it up the inside? It looks like both him and Alexander are going to be able to get it done, so that drops me all the way from P1 to P6 over one tiny little dip into the sand. So ton of momentum lost there. A little bit later on, and well, Turbo Boy, he's out leading with no issues whatsoever. P2 is Jayce, so both Scotsmen up in P1 and P2. P3 is a solid result so far for DWG, with myself in P4. So again, it's all going off kind of in the mid pack once again, as we have Dan also behind us, followed by the likes of Alexander. Archangel, he's dropped back a few places. Nizam there in the background as well, trying to get himself on the back of the pack as Alexander goes for a little bit of a wide line through there. And again, there's Nizam in his a bit of a different looking Mini. No problem with that. It looks absolutely fantastic. Certainly doesn't look as racy as the others, but you know, still nice to see something different. And then at the back we have Steve defending from Jody, and then obviously we have the Jester, not really eligible for points, kind of just cruising around at the back there. A little bit later on, we're going to go into the rest of lap 4, and DWG and myself are going to have a bit of a battle. We're going to dip into the slipstream now. Obviously you can see there's 4 cars piling up here, all battling for the slip, and Dan's going to get it down the inside with Alexander on the outside. This is going to cause a little bit of a sandwich going into turn 1, but let's see how it pans out. Jayce going through there. DWG, he's then just going to maintain that gap really. And Dan gets it nice and wide into the desert, and that's going to cause him to lose a ton of momentum. So we're going to try it up the inside of DWG, as well as Alexander also trying to, you know, get that position done. And that's going to cause him to lose 2 positions in a single corner, as we also have Dan trying to get back in his slip to keep his momentum going. Just a bit back, as you can see in the background, we did see Arch. He's not too far off of this pack either, so it could end up as a 5-way battle. Alexander, with his better suspension and gear setup for Willow Springs, has got himself through up into P3, just managing to get past me there and begin to build a bit of a gap as Dan also goes through, and that's caused DWG to then fall into the clutches of Archangel and drop him back to P7. It wasn't going to be long though before Alexander began to continue to make his moves like he's been doing all of this meeting. He's going to try one once again up the inside of Jayce. As you can see, the run up to the line. He's then going to be on the outside line. Is he going to be able to get this one done before turn 1? Let's see. So Jayce is going to be now on the inside. Alexander's going to be on the outside. Is he going to be able to pull this one off? Nearly door to door there, and we're both going to get through cleanly, but it's looking like Alexander may be able to get this one on the inside line there. As you can see, the sweeping right-hander, if you kind of get it out wide there, you're going to have to hope for a very good run out of it, but it's looking like Alexander's just got that one done. Battle for P4 now, and as you can see, it's myself and Dan battling it out very, very closely, basically bumper to bumper. We're coming into the final sweeping right-hander. Bit of a nightmare turn. I was losing a ton of momentum through there. Every time I managed to run it wide, it just wasn't going to plan. So we're going to keep a nice tight inside line here, but we are going to manage to basically make a bit of a mess of it, really. As you can see, we're then going to try and go straight to the outside to switch it back inside. We're going to bump off the curb onto 2 wheels, and almost the same as what happened to Alexander and Jayce is going to happen, and Dan's going to lose a bit of momentum there. Now we do have a yellow flag out there. I think that's for Steve. Yes, it is, as he goes through shot. Plenty of dust being kicked up, and sadly it's going to be a bit of a moment for Steve really in this race. He's just not having a good time as he once again gets reset. A lap later though, and as you can see, or a few laps later, we do have Dan eventually catching us up. As you can see, we're going to go through a trip through the desert, and that's going to drop us back behind him, so eventually dropping back into P5, and Dan eventually getting his move done. So I'm sure he's going to be very, very happy with that one. So let's go and have a look at the final finishing positions. We have Turbo Boy taking the win once again, P2 once again to Alexander, with P3 going to Jayce after a very lonely race after his battle with Alexander. So well done to those 3 for the podium positions. Dan, he's eventually going to be quite pleased, taking the P4 off myself there at the end. P5 for obviously myself. DWG and Arch once again. DWG getting it this time. P7 for Arch. P8 again for Nizam. P9 once again for Jody, with Steve retiring, so a DNF for him and 0 points. So very good racing by everybody, absolutely a ton of fun. Fastest lap once again goes to this guy, it's Alexander, 131.770 for his fastest lap that time around, so absolutely flying. So let's go and have a look at the league standings after round 1. So 2 rounds and 2 races essentially done over a single round, should I say. As you can see, Turbo Boy leading at pretty much maximum points there, but only by a point really, by 49 points on Alexander. Obviously he's got the pole position, fastest lap, and the fastest lap points as well, so that's allowed him to kind of close up that gap. Dan sits in a very comfortable P3 joint with Jayce, kind of both joint taking that silver and the gold driver there. The best of the bronze drivers is DWG with 35 points, myself 31, 30 points for Archangel in P7. P8 is Tal or Nizam on 22 points, Jody on 18 points, ahead of Steve on 14 points. So we have 10 people eligible for points that round. Obviously kind of a bit of a last minute just kind of dropouts and such, so we didn't really have time to get the standings in, but it doesn't really matter when it's an individual championship. So there we are. Thank you for joining me for round 1 of the Classic Mini Challenge. Round 2 will be happening I believe next Wednesday, so that video should be out for next weekend. So thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe, turn your notifications on so you don't miss an upload from me. I'll be uploading GT7 content each and every day, at least in the near future. I'll see you all later on. Take care guys, peace. And just before I forget, don't forget to check out the website. See you later guys.